Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives and welcome back to downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's been a minute, where today you join me with the 2026 Subaru Uncharted, the brand new and smallest electric vehicle currently offered by Subaru. Now, we drove the Toyota version of this earlier this year in California, and I quite liked it. And I said eventually we will get one back at home. And while this is technically not a Toyota CHR, it's no secret that Subaru doesn't really develop their own electric vehicles. In fact, all three of them that they currently offer are actually Toyotas. So you've got this one, which is the CHR, the Solterra, which is the BZ, and then there's the Trail Seeker, which is the BZ Woodland, two of which, or actually all of which, we drove at the Toyota event in California earlier this year. And kind of what I gathered is that they're all exactly the same. You just kind of pick your size and how much money you're willing to spend and what color you want. This one's Habanero orange, which I think is excellent. And then you'll be on your way. Obviously, you know, jokes aside, there are a couple other small differences with this. This is the GT model, the top trim, and I think the Uncharted kind of looks like if Rockstar Games tried to make a CHR for Grand Theft Auto. It almost looks like a CHR, but it has slightly different fascias and different wheels that kind of look like 1552 Turbo Max, like my dad has on his Focus RS. That's kind of what I see in these, though these are gray and not white, but I think these would look epic if they were painted white, especially with the Habanero orange paint. While we're down here, we'll show you the Yokohama Geolandar tires, which are an interesting choice. Same tire, or very similar tire, to what's on the Toyota 4Runner that we're driving this week. Anyway, this is a 235/50R20 squared setup. And we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves because I haven't even told you about the powertrain in this. Now, this is obviously an electric vehicle, and I don't review many of these on Topher Drives, but I did seriously like the CHR, and I love a good plucky little city commuter. So today we're going to commute this home and see what this is like in a real-world city setting. And the most important things for you to know about this are it has two electric motors. Combined power output between the both of them is 338 horsepower and 323 pound-feet of torque. Of course, since it has two electric motors, it's all-wheel drive. We have a 74.7 kilowatt-hour battery in this. It has a NACS or Tesla charger port, whatever you want to call this. It can DC fast charge from 10 to 80% in about 28 minutes, and the EPA estimated range is 273 miles. Now, I think that's a bit optimistic because when I pulled this off the charger this morning, it was reading just over 230 miles. However, I drove it all the way here to downtown Ann Arbor, and it's now reading that it has 228 miles, and my house is definitely further than 4 miles from here. So maybe it does get 273 miles of range, and it's just being very modest. I don't know. Anyway, though, I told you this is a GT. It's Habanero orange. The GT starts at $43,000. This one with the paint and destination comes in at 46 grand. So in comparison to its sibling, the Toyota CHR, it is about $3,000 more expensive from trim to trim. The other main difference here is that you can get a front-wheel drive version of the Subaru Uncharted, whereas every CHR has this dual motor all-wheel drive setup, which means it's a little bit cheaper to get into an Uncharted on a base level, but you get less power. And there is also a mid-range version of this called the Sport, which would be equivalent to the SE CHR, and this GT would be equivalent to the XSE. And so equivalent that the color palette is pretty much the same. We drove an orange CHR in California, but what do they call it? Tandoori, I think, but it has to be the same color, right? Maybe it's a little different, but I assume it's exactly the same. Anyway, though, why don't we poke around this and show you some of the differences, and we'll show you what it looks like inside and out. Biggest difference is actually on the back, where Subaru, for some reason, mounts the turn signal lights below the taillights. The CHR, they're kind of all one unit in that strip taillight that goes across the back. This is all right. I'm not always a huge fan of turn signals being mounted low down. I feel like it should all just kind of be one unit on the car. We can hold our key here and pop the boot and show you what room is like back here. Now, this is a small car, which I think is fine. You know, I'm not against small cars, and this is honestly a pretty good size for somebody that just needs to have a daily driver. I mean, you don't need all the room in the world. You don't need the BZ Woodland if you don't have a BZ Woodland sized family. So you've got adequate room back here. This bit comes out. Actually, these two bits both come out. You can kind of stack stuff back here. We've got a charging cable. We've got a goop kit and a tool kit as well with a tow hook. That is the longest tow hook I've ever seen in a car. Look at that. It's massive. Jeez. I guess the location of where that threads in must be very deep within the car. This gets an 11-speaker Harman Kardon as opposed to the 9-speaker JBL you get in the Toyota CHR, so a couple extra speakers here. And it does sound pretty decent. We'll show you what that sounds like later. In the back seat, and okay, I gotta be honest, I love the C-pillar mounted door handles, which this is kind of a throwback to the first-gen CHR that had those, you know, kind of the funky nature of that. It's cool that they kept that. These seats fold down. Inside this GT model, we have gray StarTex, so Subaru's artificial leather. Is artificial the right word? I don't know. It's just it's a Tex material. It's very soft. In fact, I think if you sat in this and there wasn't a front seat, you could slip and fall out of it. It is that slippery and soft back here. But I do like it. There's nice little perforations here in the middle of the back seat. And then you get this fold-down armrest with some cup holders and a spot to put your phone, which I suspect would actually fit my plus-sized iPhone. Yes, it would. Okay, very good. Additionally, you've got heated outboard rear seats, 2 USB-C ports, and climate vents back here. You don't get your own climate panel, but you can at least aim air at your face if you would like. 2 seat back pockets, and the most important thing, room sat behind myself at 5'11". I have just enough. Now, wearing this camera on my face, I do run into the headliner a bit, and I think that's because of this panoramic roof that you get standard in the GT. But anyway, worth noting, if you don't wear a camera on your face, you could probably be up to 6 foot, maybe slouch a bit back here, and you'd be okay. Definitely more in the way of legroom than headroom. And this middle seat, since this is an EV, there's no drivetrain hump, so it is a bit more usable for a middle passenger. Door panel materials, I don't know that they really scream $46,000 to me, but you do have a bit of contrast gray StarTex on here as well. I'll pop the hood and show you some technology. I never know what to say for this because it's got 2 electric motors. I can't show you all of them. But I'll show you what we got going on here in the front. Unfortunately, no frunk with this and no hood struts, which I'm not really going to complain about with this because, because how often are you ever even opening the hood on your Subaru Uncharted? I mean, I don't think you're working on this yourself, so just leave it to the dealer. But, and I guess it's one less thing to break. I don't know. My eyes are being opened to other arguments against hood struts lately. I just think it's funny that they still use this little plastic clip like I have on my 2003 Lexus IS300 that's always broken. So maybe down the road, people will be retrofitting those as well. But Subaru is kind of taking the Honda approach to their trim levels here, and I guess the Subaru approach as well, where everything just comes standard. It's so funny. You go on the configurator to build an Uncharted, and all you get to pick is your exterior and interior color. That's it. There's a whole packages tab for this that just has nothing in it. It's just a blank screen. So it's so funny. But, okay, last thing I want to tell you on the outside, we've got 8.2 inches of ground clearance on this, which is decent, but in comparison to Subaru's similarly sized internal combustion or hybrid-powered compact, the Crosstrek, it's got half an inch less. So keep that extra half an inch in mind, I guess, if you're cross-shopping this and a Crosstrek hybrid or a internal combustion Crosstrek. Seats in the front look pretty similar to the ones in the back, trimmed out pretty nicely with the two-tone in the front here. And nice perforations as well. Door panels, same story as the back, though you do get 2 memory seat settings up here, which is nice. Okay, now, here's one of the biggest differences and one of the biggest things I like about the Subaru versions of the Toyota electric cars, and it's that they put a square steering wheel on them. Now, hear me out, because I usually don't like square steering wheels, but with the very unique way that this interior is laid out in the space pod style that I've been calling it since the latest generation Prius hit the market, the gauge cluster is very far away from you at the top of the dash. Now, if you have a rounded steering wheel, now try and picture this with me, and I may even put a shot of the CHR in here so you can understand what I'm on about. The top of the steering wheel comes up a little bit further, so it's a little bit harder to see this cluster. Decently quiet in here. Let's start this up. Subaru have integrated their chime into this as well, so that's nice. Thank you, Subaru. But you can see I can read all of this. I've got the steering wheel in a comfortable position, and not only is it flat on the top to protect your vision, it's flat on the bottom so it doesn't run into your legs. So I think ergonomically this does make a lot more sense. So there you go. Subaru took their creative freedom and actually did something in here that makes a difference. Infotainment-wise, it is the same, which means you've got a volume knob in the middle, you've got climate knobs on the outside, which are kind of part of the screen, and then your vent speed is a touch control in the middle, though climate does stay constant. I do wish we had a little physical button here to do the vent speed. That's the only thing that's been kind of annoying for me this week. Heated steering wheel, heated ventilated seats, got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and this has ambient lighting as well, and a little bit of orange on the dashboard, which you don't get in the CHR. So the interior does actually look a little bit different. Center console that opens both ways, so the passenger is able to access it. Only bummer about living with this Uncharted, if you're a runner like me, and you like to lock up your belongings when you go to the trail or something like that, there's no locking glove box. In fact, there's no glove box at all. There's just nothing here. So something to keep in mind, maybe bring a little lockbox or just carry all your stuff with you like I've been doing this week. But just one of the little annoyances I've had with this interior. Though there are many other places to put things, you've got some extra storage underneath your shifter raised console area, which has 2 wireless phone chargers, which both work pretty well. I've enjoyed those this week. And then the door pockets have a little extra room for water bottles or whatever else. And then I suspect maybe you could fit a Culver's medium fry in the door pull. Otherwise, we have a physical dimmer switch for the cluster only. The Topher appreciates that, though we both wish that it would also do the infotainment screen. There's a separate menu in there to do that. Biggest difference, apart from what I've already shown you that I've noticed from the CHR to the Uncharted, is that you get a camera rear view mirror in this GT model. I looked back at my video of the CHR XSE and it didn't have the camera rear view mirror. So there you go. Okay, well, why don't we get out of the city and we'll talk about what this is actually like to drive, as I suspect that is what you came to this video for. So let's use our weird circular shifter that I actually have grown to kind of like. When you go into reverse, you are greeted with a 360 and a reverse camera and the Subaru chime that continues the entire time you're in reverse, as you can hear there. You think some things they would tell Toyota they didn't want to participate in. You think maybe they'd say, okay, we're making this our own, we're putting our own chime in it. Let's not make it beep the entire time it's in reverse. But alas, they have done that. Quality of cameras is good, and when you go into drive, you can click this physical camera button to pull up the front camera if you are pulling into a spot. Just don't go faster than 6 miles an hour because it will disengage. But you can get right up to a curb here without touching. That is nice for any size car. I always do like to have one of these. And the 360 camera in this is really cool too because it's transparent, as we know many of these Toyota 360 cameras are. Though the 4Runner that I'm also driving this week doesn't have it, so that's a little bit confusing. Anyway, Subaru Uncharted. Let's get this wound down, I guess wound would be the word. Let's get this wound down the parking structure, where my immediate impression with these cars that have this interior setup, so any of the electric Toyotas or Subarus and the Toyota Prius, and maybe some other cars that I'm forgetting, I really do like the way you sit in these cars. I mean, I think this one does it perfectly because it has the flat top and bottom steering wheel, but I just think that the maneuverability of this car, it has a nice sort of simulated smallness. The steering has a nice medium lightness to it as well, so you are able to confidently maneuver this and just get it pretty much wherever you want it to be. It's a great size for a city car, and the packaging here does seem to make sense for somebody that's commuting alone or maybe with 1 or 2 other people. I think you guys will be able to do it pretty comfortably. And the steering itself, I wouldn't say it's quite as silky as a Lexus, but it does have a very sort of satisfying lightness and precision to it that you kind of only get in these cars with these very small steering wheels and this interior setup. Now, I must also admit, I was a little bit worried when I saw that this had a 20-inch wheel on it, but you do get the 50-section sidewall, so the ride quality is lovely. And I would never doubt Subaru for ride quality. And if I know a Toyota Subaru collabed car, I'm sure Subaru has messed with the suspension in here, because you go to something like a GR86 versus a BRZ, the suspension tuning is completely different. So it's probably the same here in this Uncharted as well. Let's go over here behind this Elantra end and we'll pull the cameras up to double check our maneuverability. The square steering wheel is sometimes a little bit awkward, and that's where I'm very torn on this, between this and the CHR, because I like touching the circular steering wheel better, but I like going straight with the square steering wheel. Right. Let's make a move here. And we are going to be attempting to find our way out of Ann Arbor because half of it's shut. So the way we normally go, we can't go. So I will be trying my best to navigate the city with, I guess, the factory navigation. I kind of would rather use Waze, to be honest, because Waze will tell me exactly what's shut. Yeah, the city is absolute madness right now, but I'm still having a good time because I'm in a Subaru Uncharted. You know, this is one of those cars that does really feel at home in a city. And since this is a Toyota, all of their inputs are just about spot on. And, you know, I was proud of Toyota when they first came out with electric vehicles because, of course, they've been making hybrids since the beginning of time. But electric vehicles are something completely different. So the inputs, you know, I wasn't expecting them to be perfect, but there's a really nice, satisfying nature to the accelerator pedal in the same way that there is with the steering. It's all this very nice sort of medium lightness that feels very natural. And that kind of paired with this unique seating position, it just makes for kind of a fun time driving around the city. Now, the only thing I don't love about driving this as an EV is that it doesn't have a full one-pedal driving system. It does have regen braking, which you can activate with these paddle shifters. You can completely turn them off by hitting the up paddle, and you can toggle 4 different levels with the down paddle or the up paddle to reduce, but you increase with the down paddle. And I have been driving this on level 4 of regen, because it almost brings you to a complete stop. You'll see here, I'll pull my foot off the accelerator. It is decelerating quite a bit, but it won't take me to a complete stop. So I do have to apply the brakes, which is also a decently pleasant experience. Now, I spent some time last year in the Subaru Solterra, which is the oldest version of the Subaru Toyota collab electric car, and I could not, for the life of me, get that car to do a limo stop. I could not get it to stop smoothly. And happy to report here in the Uncharted, I've had 0 issues with that this week, and I've been able to drive this in a much smoother manner. So they've gone through and they've tweaked the brake feel, at least for the Uncharted. I don't know. I guess I can't speak for the Solterra, but I would hope that all of these cars got a bit of an update for 26. We're going to try to go out to Huron Street. I think that will take me out of the city. As long as nothing's shut between that and Washtenaw, we'll be okay. It's easy to just kind of breathe on that throttle, get yourself going with a reasonable amount of gusto. And also, I got to compliment Toyota and Subaru for not making this a stupid gimmicky EV in the way of putting fake sound through the speakers. There's just nothing that comes through the speakers. And I think that's great because it's an electric vehicle. It doesn't make any noise, and I don't want it to make any noise. I mean, you've got a little whirring sound, but that's legit, you know, from the electric motors. You hear actually what's going on. I suppose it is on brand for Toyota to not want to fake anything. I think if Subaru developed their own electric car, though, they'd have like sounds of birds and things playing through the speakers, maybe when you accelerate it. So maybe it's good that this is a Toyota. No, I joke. I still do like Subaru. I really think Subaru is like a cool sort of almost enthusiast brand in the year, dare I say, in the year 2026. Because they make a lot of cool stuff, and they really take advantage of that boxer engine. They put it in everything. And I do think it's worth bringing up, okay, the Crosstrek Hybrid, which I have done almost this exact route with, so you guys should go watch that video if you're cross-shopping. Because this being fully electric, yes, it has its time and place, and if you want an EV, then, well, this is the EV from Subaru. But the Crosstrek Hybrid is almost $10,000 cheaper from trim to trim, and it's quite efficient. When I was driving it, it got like mid-30s for MPG, which I guess for a hybrid isn't insanely good. But hey, for a car in general, mid-30s is good. It's a little bit smaller. It weighs a heck of a lot less. This, I almost call it a CHR. This Trail Seeker, no, not Trail Seeker. Have I called this the Trail Seeker through this video? I've meant to call it the Uncharted if I have. It's all very confusing. This Uncharted weighs 4,400 and some odd pounds, which is over 1,000 pounds more than an equivalent Crosstrek. So that's the other thing with EVs, is you kind of have to account for the weight of them. They are sort of big, heavy things. But anyway, efficiency-wise, we're still showing 97% charge with 226 miles of range. I've driven this to Ann Arbor and a quarter of the way back, and it's only lost 3% battery, so I don't know what that's all about. I do know that I want the air conditioning to be on because I am quite hot. So the other thing about this car is that it is very fast. And I was surprised by the CHR when I drove it for the first time in California, because historically, the Toyota CHR was always this slow little econo box that looked very fun, but it had something like 140 horsepower, and it could barely get out of its own way. Well, this has almost 3 times that at the 338 horsepower mark, and it just rips. It's so surprising to get into something like this, press the accelerator, and have it move at such a rate. And when you do get on it, which we'll do a little bit here, it just has a permanent blinking traction control light because it just can't put its power down on these Yokohama Geolanders. It's such a funny thing. And it does wow the passengers as well. I took Emily and her mom out in this yesterday, and they were both having a great time under the hard accelerations. So that's another fun thing about EVs. You know, you can kind of give them a little bit of throttle, and you just have the instant torque. And this is in its normal drive mode. You've also got power mode and eco mode. But just driving it in normal mode is totally fine. I think, to be honest, all of the drive modes kind of feel the same. I haven't really noticed a huge difference. Power mode, the power comes on, or the torque comes on maybe a half a second sooner when you hit the accelerator pedal. So that is nice. Maybe we'll run it in power for a second. Oh my goodness. I watched people hit that bump on my way out, and I thought, okay, don't drive in the right lane when you're exiting Ann Arbor. Completely forgot. However, I'm glad that I forgot that, because it was a good demonstration of how good the ride quality is in this car. It just bulldozes everything. Very much Subaru characteristic in that way. You can just go over any pothole in the road, and the Uncharted does not care. So what about visibility out of this thing? Well, I do really appreciate the camera rearview mirror, because due to the unique styling of this car and the funky nature of the CHR shape, the rear window isn't as large as maybe I would like. So I do like having the camera mirror in this. Side view mirrors are nice out of this as well, and forward visibility is pretty decent. The windshield is a good size and a good angle. Now, you can't see the front of the hood, but I'm still happy with visibility, and you've got like every camera in the world on this car, so that makes it pretty easy for you as well. Just enough entertainment from light to light to put a smile on your face. It's so funny because you read numbers from EVs on paper and you think that's not going to be very fast. Ooh, okay, it didn't let... Okay, with traction off, it's less happy. It just completely shut itself down. Anyway, what I was going to say is you read numbers of EVs on paper and you see, okay, this is a 4,400 pound car with 338 horsepower. It's not going to be that fast, but it just is. It's quite quick. I do also like the feel through this brake pedal when you're coming down from a higher rate of speed. And then as far as this 4th level of regen, which is the way I've been driving this for most of the week, it's a nice sort of natural progression when you pull your foot off the accelerator to when this decelerates. And I just wish it would go that little extra distance and come to a complete stop, because I think this would be a wonderful one-pedal drive system And I don't know why Toyota doesn't have the confidence to do this yet, because they could just so easily make this slow down from 3 to 0 miles an hour, and that would be the rest of the job done. Now, we talked in the intro about how the GT trim of this Uncharted essentially comes loaded with everything, and this is a bit of a different philosophy than Toyota uses for the XSE CHR, because that starts about $6,000 less than this Uncharted. However, you don't get standard things like the heated steering wheel, the heated back seats, the camera mirror, the pano roof, the little headlight washers that you get down here that are a physical button. So if you're somebody that doesn't care about all that, then it would probably make more sense for you to just go with the CHR and save a bit of money. But if you're somebody that doesn't want to tick boxes, and if you're somebody that wants some extra choices like the camera mirror, then I suppose the Uncharted would be the choice for you. But as opposed to both of these electric cars, I really do think you should cross-shop Crosstrek Hybrid and Corolla Cross Hybrid, because they're about the same size, they're quite a bit cheaper, and they're very efficient. Well, let's get this Subaru Uncharted merged onto the highway. I'm going to leave this in power mode while we merge. Chassis feels pretty good in this. You do have a decent amount of body roll, but I think you should. I don't think this thing has to handle like it's on rails. I like the little bursts of power that you get, but I don't need to be taking my Subaru Uncharted to the Nürburgring, so I'd rather have a bit of body roll and squishy damper feel. Give these guys plenty of room, and then we'll see what our passing power is like here. A little bit of torque steer. And up to speed there. Let's put this back into its normal drive mode. And we'll let you observe NVH. To be honest, it's a little bit noisy in here, and this is why I always like to have these cars back at home, because you go out to this beautiful state, beautiful scenery, custom tailored drive route to the car, and you simply don't get your full impressions on the car. You don't know what it's going to be like on an imperfect road surface on a highway at higher speeds. In fact, I don't even think I drove a CHR on the highway when I was in California, because they had us in this little mountain town, and we went and did a mountain road, and we came back. So now that I'm getting to experience this on the highway, I can tell you it's a little bit loud, you know, and I don't know that for 47 grand I want this much NVH on the highway. Got a little bit of road intrusion, a little bit of wind intrusion as well, and a little bit of moistness on my back, so I'm going to turn the ventilated seat on. Ooh, which does work in an absolute treat. Comes on right away, pretty powerful. I think the ratio of the steering is just about spot on. With the steering wheel being an awkward shape, you don't always really want to be doing a ton of hand-over-hand movements. So if you can keep your hands at 9 and 3 most of the time, that is good, and on this, you definitely can. Anyway, let's show you the... Geez, I was going to say Toyota Safety Sense. Let's show you the Subaru EyeSight in this car. There we go. Super easy to work. You just press this one physical button here on the upper left-hand side of the steering wheel. And the adjustments are pretty easy. They're all physical here on the wheel as well, and you can adjust your distance for the adaptive cruise all over here on the right-hand side. I like that it's all contained over here, so you don't have to go searching for it. You also get lane keep assist. I don't know how well this will work through a construction zone. It's actually doing pretty well. I really had no problems with this cruise control this week. I have been using it quite a bit, and it's fine. Sometimes these systems are a little bit nervous. I'm going to jump over here, because I do want to see how it handles a pass. Okay, this person is on the brakes. Let's go to change lanes. Yeah, you see, I want it to accelerate a little bit faster than that, because if there's somebody flying up the left lane, you don't want to be impeding them. So as far as staying between the lines, no complaints. The adaptive cruise, I think that could use a little bit of tweaking. Anyway, though, let's talk ergonomics here while we finish out this very short highway section. Elbow comfiness is decent. You've got a little bit more squish on the driver's door panel than you do on the center console here. I do wish they had a little bit more padding there. And then this bit does stick out a bit more into the driver's compartment than I would like, and this is the case with any of these Toyotas or Subarus that have this setup. The console is just a little bit intrusive. Now, seat comfort here is lovely. You've got good adjustment. Lumbar goes out super far, though it is only two-way. You've got good height adjust on the seat, and I think the overall cushioning of the seat is pretty decent as well. I would like to maybe take one of these on a road trip and see what that is like long term, but for my drive today and for the time I've spent in it this week, no complaints with the seats. And I think the last thing to do as we finish out this highway section is to give you a taste of this 11-speaker Harman Kardon with our somewhat new sound system test song. Very silky to operate. I like that. And then you've got a physical switch on the steering wheel here too. Left exits on highways because you just feel like you're impeding traffic for the entire time leading up to the exit. Anyway, let's talk about the sound system. Pretty good, and if memory serves, this is a little bit better, I would say, than the 9-speaker you get in the CHR. And you know, I think it's cool that there are unique little touches like that. Like Subaru goes in, they put their own unique Harman Kardon sound system in this. They put their own unique steering wheel on it, different front and rear fascias, and StarTex material on the seats and things like that. So, you know, jokes aside, there are a decent amount of differences here, and you do kind of have to pay for them because this is a bit more expensive than an equivalent CHR. However, it is up to you to decide the value in these changes, and it is all about preference. So, you know, maybe you like the round steering wheel versus the square. Maybe you like the hammerhead front end on the CHR a little bit better. But luckily, both cars exist, and both are available. So let's end this out with a quick little performance loop. I want to take this around our fast left-hand corner, and then I want to do a 0 to 60, and then we will go ahead and wrap this up. Let's pop this back into power mode. Use this regen braking. It appears maybe there's a situation around the corner here. Oh, there is. There's a little groundhog in the road. Get to safety, buddy. Keep going. Keep going. Yes! Get to the grass. Get to the grass. Yes, there it is. Into the grass he goes. There's that blinking traction light. Just a totally chronic blinking traction light. Lean it in. You know what's funny? The Topher and I kind of gathered that somehow the Uncharted doesn't handle as well as the Trail Seeker, which is so weird because the Trail Seeker is massive. But the chassis feels a little bit more dialed in on that. And really that isn't a complaint, more so an observation. Because like I said earlier, I'd rather this car focus on a comfortable ride than going around a corner quickly. But it is my duty to show you how this takes a corner. So let's find that out real quick. Pray for these Geolanders. I do actually like the safeness of this traction control system, or I guess more so lack of, because it gives you a little bit of slip, and we've been seeing that off the line throughout this whole video. But even exiting that corner with tons of tire squeal, I was able to use that torque to pull myself out. So pretty big fan of how they've got all of the inputs and electronics and safety systems all tuned and dialed in this car, I do think they all work together in pretty perfect harmony, to be honest. All right, one less acceleration. Let's turn traction off because we don't have any uneven pavement and see how it goes. Fighting for grip there, up to about 40 miles an hour. Yes, okay. A quick little orange machine this is. Okay. Let's get this over to the warehouse parking lot. We'll give you one last look at it and we'll wrap it up. My final thoughts on this, you know, you guys know, I don't film a ton of EVs. I would say 80% of my content is internal combustion vehicles. But I like EVs that make sense. You know, I'm not a huge fan of like a massive, oh, here you go, here's a perfect example. This stupid GMC 10,000 pound truck thing that's towing a lawnmower that could be towed by a Ford Maverick. That's just preposterous. But something like this, it makes a little bit more sense to me because it's small. You can get into it for $34,000 if you go for the base model. And it's nice for someone that has a short little commute to the city and back, and maybe you can charge at work. And I think the interior packaging makes sense. The only thing that would kill this car for me would be a Crosstrek hybrid or a Toyota Corolla Cross hybrid. And they are two cars that you definitely should consider. But if you're dead set on an electric vehicle, I really do think the CHR and the Uncharted are nice choices. You know, they're kind of unique in this market in the way that they aren't really about excess. They're just kind of electric vehicles that do what they're supposed to do, and I respect them for that. So take a look at these. I think the styling is nice on them too, and I think in order to make a compelling electric vehicle in 2026, it has to have unique styling, and these cars definitely do. So if I were to choose between them, geez, I honestly do feel like I would go for the Uncharted because I think the exterior styling is a little bit nicer, and I like the square steering wheel for the ergonomics of this interior. And they both come in orange, so you're able to do that no problem. And I think I just messed up this parking pretty bad. Oh, I'm actually okay. I'm a little crooked. No, I'm not. Into park with the P button. Parking brake will automatically apply, but if it doesn't, you've got this little switch right here by your shifter. Cool. And also, I gotta say, I can't believe I have to say this in 2026, but I'm glad this has a power button because a lot of these EVs these days, you get in them and they just turn on, and I don't like that. I like to be in charge of if the car is on. So thanks for keeping a power button in this Subaru. But here you go. One last look at this funky little compact EV. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have this? Would you have the CHR? Would you have something else in this segment? Would you pick a hybrid, an ICE over this? What would you do? Just curious what you guys think. But I've had a good few days with this, and it's probably my favorite out of the 3 EVs currently offered by Subaru. So that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this. But yeah, that's it for me today. We will see you in the next video. Take care.